Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back to the Mani Maniac. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that button to subscribe and especially the gray bell next to that so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. You get all those notifications. Don't want to miss out. Today I have a really great video for you. I'm going to be working with some of the colors from the January 2020 Sparkle & Co. I Want It All Ultimate bag. Today I am going to start out by working with the Sparkle & Co. Peel Base. Peel Base is basically just a protective cover that you put over your natural nail that helps the dip powder pop off without having to soak it in acetone, which to me is really important. I hate having my hands in acetone. I don't put my clients' hands in acetone unless it's absolutely necessary. I file off most of my gel polish and things like that. But if you are a dip powder user, whether you use the resin system or the gel top and gel base to put on your dip, you can put this peel base underneath and it will actually help it to pop off easier. Now, here's the caveat to that. Peel base is not like a fail-safe system. Everybody is different. So if you do happen to order this from Sparkle & Co., it will change your life, I promise, but you need to be patient. There are so many different ways to apply it. So I'm going to show you kind of a couple of those different ways so that you can check that out and start experimenting if you do decide to order this product, because it's so great, especially if you're changing your manicure every week or less. You don't want to be soaking your hands in acetone, pulling things off. And there are a couple different ways that you can do this. So let me go ahead and get into that. So there are a lot of people that will put a clear base underneath. So they'll put down the base bond, dip it in clear, solidify, buff it just to give a layer underneath. They'll kind of build their apex and all that underneath and then put peel base on top. I'm not going to do that today just because this is going to turn out to be a really long video if I do. But please know that you can do that. The great thing about doing it that way is that when you do peel, pop off from the peel base layer, you can clean that off and then fill in any of that clear that you need to, that if it's grown out at all or anything like that. And then you can just proceed with another layer of peel base right over top, or however many layers you put. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then go ahead with the next manicure. So it is a really, really great product. So I'm just going to show you real quickly a couple different ways. So some people put the peel base completely over their entire natural nail. I've already prepped my nails, I've washed my hands, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to show you on here, and just ignore, I do have a little bit of acrylic still sitting on my nail from when I took those off there. So you can put the peel base over the entire natural nail, and you want to do pretty thin coats, I would say, because you're going to have to wait for it to dry. So that will happen faster, obviously, if you don't. Now, there are a lot of people that don't put it down the cuticle edge. Some people will just put one strip right down the center and a fairly thick one. But basically what that's going to do is it's going to let this adhere really well around the side here, up the side walls. And then because of that, the manicure will stay a little bit longer. There are people that only do it on the tip so that they can pop it off when they're ready to. There's just lots of different ways. So I'm going to try all of these. I'm also going to try multiple layers, like numbers of layers. So I would say you'll probably need at least 2 layers of this peel base, and we'll do 2 layers on this finger and 3 layers on this finger, and then I'll let you know in a future video how that works out. So lots of fun. So once that's kind of started to dry, now remember we did full coverage on these 2 fingers. We did one wide strip down the middle here. This one is only at the tip. So we're gonna check and see. The theory behind this one is that, you know, it will adhere as it starts to lift. It'll just be easier to pop off. I don't really know how well that's going to work, just knowing what I know about nails. But, you know, we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. So we'll do a thick strip down the middle on this one too. And again, I'm staying kind of a little ways from the cuticle, and I'm giving just a nice wide thin coat of that. All right, so you can see this one's kind of still milky, and as it dries, it really gets a lot clearer. So we'll go ahead and put coat number 2 on here. And this is, again, just full coverage over the nail. And then another wide strip right down the middle. Coat number 2. Number 2 on the tip. And then number 2 all over again. See how that works. So I'll go ahead and leave that one. I'm going to leave all of these with just 2 coats. I'm going to put a 3rd coat on this one, and same over here. We'll end up doing 3 coats on this thick wide strip. So these will all be 2, and these will both be 3. So let that dry. We're going to go ahead and do one more thin coat on the entire nail here. And again, the great thing about this is that if it's easier, if you can find the right amount of peel base that will let you keep the manicure the right amount of time for you, because that differs for people. Some people want it to stay on as long as possible because they don't want to do it as often. Some of us are addicted to the colors and the sparkle and just can't stop changing our manicures. I mean, there are people that change every 3 to 5 days because they love it so much, and that's awesome. If I had time, I probably would do the exact same thing. I do get to play with nails a lot since I am a nail technician though, so, you know, I get my fix that way. Don't always have to do it all myself. However, if you can find the right method that works for you, and a lot of it depends on the health of your nail, whether your nail beds are very oily or very dry or just normal. Everybody's chemistry is different. So you do have to keep in mind when you're doing this that you might need to play with it a little bit. So as I mentioned, all right, so we've got our 3rd coat on there. We're just going to go ahead and let that dry. And then we're going to start in with our colors. So I really am trying to figure out a way I can use all of these colors, but I don't know. So I definitely want to use the Slay Girl Slay, Level Up, and Who Run the World. So I think we'll just start with those and see how we go from there. And I might even do Girl Power and then Ombre, the Level Up on top of that. So we'll see. I also want to try chroming Who Run the World because it looks like it's going to make an awesome chrome. All right, so once those are all clear and all dry, well, all clear because they're going to be sticky, so don't touch it. We're going to go ahead and start with our first coat of the base bond. And we'll go ahead and start with the Who Run the World. So, got my dip here ready to go. And I'm going to put this one on my middle finger. So whenever I'm using the base bond, you want to just make sure you have a paper towel handy. Contamination is a big thing with dip liquids. Like, they'll go bad if you contaminate them with other things. So you always want to wipe it before you put it back into the jar. So I'm getting just as close to that cuticle as I can, making sure I cover the edges all the way, but not onto the cuticle. Give that a wipe, and then I'm going to go ahead and dip. And you can see I did a really, really thin coat. I was pulling it across, not dipping more and adding more, but just pulling it to thin it and even it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and dip that right into Who Run the World. Let it sit for a few seconds, and then I'm going to go ahead and give that a little tap. Sorry, shake the camera. Gosh, that's so pretty. So pretty. Right? Love it. Give it a little dust here. Just real light dust. You just want to get the top off any excess that's not stuck on there. Okay, then we're going to pull out our base bond. We're going to do another layer of the same color over top here. Okay, and again, I'm staying clear of those side walls and the cuticle, pulling it all the way through, just a nice thin, even layer. I'm going to give that brush a good wipe before I put it back, and then we'll dip into the color again. Okay, give it a second. I just always wait just a couple extra seconds, just so I know that it's had time. With the resin system, you want to be really mindful that it's had time to kind of soak in there. All that. I mean, look how pretty that is. That's going to make could do an entire manicure of just that, and it's gorgeous. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to Slay Girl Slay. Put these up so you can see. Hopefully. I'm going to do this one on my pointer. Again, a nice thin coat of the base bond. And my nails naturally just peel, so I'm just going to make sure I get right in that little section right there. Give that a good wipe. Not on here. And then I'm going to go ahead and dip that right on top. I don't dip my finger in this way. I really don't want to, you know, I want to put as little of my finger in there as possible. I don't really want to worry about that being all in there. Okay, so once that's dry, pull out my, make sure I give it a good wipe here. Pull out my base coat. And again, these chunkier glitters, you want to make sure that you get them to lay flat. So we're going to do that by making sure we get a good layer on here. Give it a wipe, and then it's going to go flat down. And then I'm going to just give it a little pat so that I can get as much of that to lay flat as possible. All right, and then we'll go ahead and grab, you can use an orange wood stick or anything like that, and just go ahead right around the edges and kind of pull off any of those pieces that are really sticking on over the cuticle. Now they're not stuck onto the cuticle because I didn't put any of the base bond there, but because they're large, they're going to kind of, you know, find their way over there. And we've layered this, so we want to just make sure that we get any pieces that are loose, hanging over, out of the way. Okay, so we'll give that a nice dust off. Perfect. All right. Try some Level Up. This is a cool color. I'm going to just give it a little extra mix. It's like dark but really shimmery too, with all the glitter that's in there. So here's an example, and I'll show you after I do this Level Up, an example of a time when I would probably prefer to use the gel to do a color like this. Okay, so just a dip in there, give it a little tap, pat, clear up any edges. And I'll tell you why. The resin system is fantastic. It's really strong. It builds a really, really nice, solid layer on top of your nail, which is great because you know, you want the strength, which is why you use dip powder and not just polish, right? Because it's really, really strong, because it's got acrylic mixed into it. So it makes a really, really strong layer. However, the resin dries on its own, right? You put it on, and as it is in contact with the air, it's drying and getting hard, and you can't mess with that after the fact. If you use gel, and I'll show you a quick example here. Let me give this another stir so it's evenly distributed. If you use a gel, and you can use this over the peel base, no big deal. So we've got a Sparkle & Co. gel base and gel top. So we'll take the gel base, okay, and I'm going to use the Slay Girl Slay here. Well, we'll use this twice, but this one too. Let me put the Slay Girl Slay over here so you can see the difference. If I'm using the gel base, I'm going to do the same thing, right? I'm not going to go all the way to the cuticle. I'm just going to put a nice even layer as close to the sidewalls and cuticle as I can, but without touching them. And then this gel is still moving, right? It's not set exactly where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and dip this into the Slay Girl Slay. I'm going to give it a few seconds to kind of adhere. Now here's what's great about the gel with these bulkier, chunkier glitter colors, right? Right now I can go around the edges, peel off anything, and none of this is 100% stuck, right? I can push this down. I can flatten out that glitter so I don't have any bulking out. If you look here at this one, you can see some of these pieces are still sticking up. Even though I did push it after I took it out, the resin had already started to dry. Whereas with the gel, see how flat that is compared to this one? Right? You can see these little pieces kind of sticking up. It's very rough. I mean, this is still rough because it's glitter, but it's smoother because it's not set yet, right? Because it's not going to set until it gets into that UV or LED light that you're using with your products. So I'm able to really clean it up. I've got all the edges taken care of, right? Nice clean edges, very sharp. And I've got all of those glitters, which are so pretty. They're like iridescent glitters in there and all shapes. Oh, right? So now that it's all ready to go, now I can cure it and I know it's going to be exactly how I want it to look. So I'm going to do that real quickly. Be right back. All right, so I just gave this a 60-second cure. It's nice, all set and hardened. I'm gonna go ahead and put another coat of the gel base over top. This is gonna help fill in any little differences that there are between the glitter pieces. So it's gonna give me a really nice, smooth finish when I go and put my top coat on, right? Because I want it to be super smooth and glossy and beautiful. So it can reflect all of that beautiful shine from the glitter on there. So I'm just kind of working this in and I'm wiping off excess back into my bottle because I don't need it to be super thick, but I do want to make sure that it gets in there and fills in all those little grooves. So it'll be nice and flat when I put in that top coat, right? So I'm going to give my brush a little wipe, put that back, and then I'm going to just check my edges and make sure the gel isn't all over my fingers. And then I'm going to go ahead and give that a 60-second cure. Okay, so that's been 60-second cure. This is a gel base, so it does have a sticky top layer. But the Sparkle & Co. gel top is amazing and it's no wipe. So I don't even have to worry about wiping off a sticky layer or an inhibition layer off the top. So I'm going to give that a quick coat here and then we'll go ahead and get that in the light and a 60-second cure on that one. All right, so that is completely cured. Beautiful and smooth. I can't feel any of that glitter under there. It just feels smooth for me. And then I can go ahead and finish out that shape when I'm done. But look at how beautiful that is. Slay girl, slay. Lovely. I like it. All right, so back to our dip, okay? So we've got all our layers in here. We're ready to go. We're make sure that our edges are all done how we want them to. See how these are all dried, so I've got to kind of peel them off. They're not quite as smooth as I would like, but we can fix that later. with a dip of clear, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, normally I would put a couple dips of just a clear powder over top. I don't have any with me here. That's all at the salon. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish these out as they are. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple different methods. So I'm going to show you, we'll finish one of them out with the solidify and then the glossy coat as normal. And then I'm going to show you how you can also finish them with a gel top coat. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our solidify and we're just going to really sprinkle that on there. Again, we are going to wipe our brush each time before we put it back in there because we don't want to cross-contaminate any of these. Okay, so just get a good amount of solidify on there. Gonna give that a nice good wipe, and same thing here. Okay, so we've got solidify, and solidify is basically what is really going to harden or solidify, make it really solid, that layer of resin with the acrylic. So it's going to make sure anything that hasn't soaked into the resin itself is going to get really hard so that we're not going to have any trouble with it peeling or flaking off or anything like that. Okay. Now, this is the point where if you need to file or buff or anything like that, you can. I'm not going to worry about that today because I just have these glitters on here and this looks really good. I don't see any like misshapen parts or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue on with a second layer of the solidify. And I'm going to do that on this nail here. Okay. So once you have your second layer of solidify, again, we're going to wipe that brush before we put it back in. We're going to get our glossy coat ready to go. Now, I always like wait 2 minutes after I put the solidify to start the glossy coat so it can kind of start to dry and evaporate. And as it's doing that, it's not going to interact with my glossy coat in case I have a little bit more on the brush. This is one that you really, really want to make sure that you wipe the brush before you put it back in there. Because if you are wiping on top of a nail that has that solidify on it, and then you take that without wiping it off and you put it back in, the solidify that hardens it is going to mix in there and it gets really stringy and goopy, and then you can't use it anymore. And it's just a pain because you have to replace it. There's not really anything you can do at that point. So I want to make sure and give this just a couple minutes. And then when I'm ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and do a coat of the glossy right on top in 3 even strokes if I can. 1, 2, and get it all the way down to the side, but not onto the sidewall. I'm going to give that a good wipe, and then I'm going to put it back in. Now this glossy coat looks really pretty right when you put it on, but you can see it's kind of starting to dull, right? It's losing a little bit of its shine and it's dulling out. And that's okay because we're going to put a second layer of the glossy coat. You only need to wait maybe about a minute, 60 seconds or so in between the two. So now that that has had a moment to set up and kind of dry, we're going to go ahead and put another coat right on top. And that will give us that really beautiful, brilliant shine that we're looking for. Okay, give that a wipe. See, I almost didn't wipe it. Want to remember that, very important. And then again, just like when you finish with gel, you take it out of the lamp, especially if you're using the Sparkle & Co. gel top, it's done, dry, ready to go. This will take just about 1.5 to 2 minutes to dry. And once it is, it'll be completely dry. It won't have a tacky layer or be sticky or anything like that. And just look at how beautiful and shiny it is. Just really, really gorgeous. Really pretty. All right. So now you saw that I did a coat of the solidify, I let it dry, at which point I would buff or file if I needed to do that. I didn't need to this time. So I moved on to a second coat of solidify, which is important if you're going to use the glossy top coat because the solidify needs to be there in order to make the glossy top work. If you don't want to do that method, or your glossy coat went wonky, but you have some gel top lying around, you can grab that, and we're going to skip over the second solidify step, right? So I did my base, I dipped my color. Once I was all done with dipping the color, layers of color, I put a solidify on there that'll harden everything nicely. And then right on top of that, I'm going to go ahead and put my glossy coat, okay, without doing the second layer of solidify. And we'll get kind of the same result that we did before. I could put the base in here to fill up those layers like I was talking about with this one. You don't necessarily have to use base. You can use the gel top. If it's still bumpy afterwards, then I will definitely put a second coat of the glossy top, the gel top on there. Like this one's definitely going to need it. I can already tell. Okay, so we've got those ready to go. So these two have gel on them, so we're going to go ahead and cure those in light for 60 seconds. All right, so we are out of there 60 seconds in. That gel top is on. It's nice and hard and dry. If you do need a second coat on there to be able to fill in any of those ridges that maybe you don't like the feeling of or anything like that, you can definitely do that at this point. I'm just kind of shaping up these nails. You know, I don't have to worry about capping the edges because the dip itself is hard enough that it's not going to come flaking off just because the edges have been filed. So there's a couple different methods for you. We've got the peel base under there, so we'll see over the next few days how that works out. I also really quickly wanted to, as I mentioned, I want to show you that chrome effect. I'm going to go ahead and put a layer of the gel top on here now, because that is what we're going to use to make that chrome effect happen. You wouldn't want to do it on anything that has a sticky layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this in, and I'm really only going to put it in the light for about 15 seconds. So it'll be slightly tacky when it comes out, but it's not going to be really, really goopy sticky. And that will allow me to put the powder on, and as I rub it in, it's going to get into that really, really nice chrome effect. So dip powders are basically acrylic mixed in with whatever pigment or glitter is in there. You can see with these, they've got lots of big chunky glitters in there. We wouldn't be able to chrome these because it's not a fine enough substance to kind of get that really buffed look out. This one, however, which is Subscription 91, Who Run the World, this one has really fine bits of glitter in it. So I really am interested to see how it will look when I try and chrome it out. So now that I have my gel top on here, and it's been cured for about 15-20 seconds, just so it has a little tiny tack, I'm actually just going to go ahead and use my finger. You can use a an eyeshadow applicator or a silicone tool to do this as well, but I find my finger works just as well, and it's not super oily, so we should be good. So I'm basically just going to dip my finger into that really beautiful, like, gosh, look how beautiful that powder is. And then I'm going to just tap it right into that tacky layer, and then I'm going to rub it in. And that's just going to give me that kind of really beautiful chrome effect. Now, the only caution I will give you when you're doing this is when you chrome things, it's a slick looking surface. It looks amazing, but you can see every little divot or anything like that. So you may want to, and this one didn't come out too bad because it wasn't really very lumpy, but if you had any bumps or inconsistencies in the gel top that you were using or what was underneath the gel top, you would really want to be careful so that you don't get those lumps and bumps in there. So now you can see, look at how beautiful that is. Oh. So you can see those two together, what it looks like when it's put on with the dip system, also what it looks like when it's chromed. And I love to chrome things, you guys know. I'm always like, can I chrome that, right? And that's just me rubbing it in until it's nice and shiny. And just look at that. I've found with chrome as well, just another little tip, when you put a coat on the top, don't just put a top coat, put a base coat and then a top coat. And for some reason that really helps the chrome to not start peeling off of the nail. So I'm going to do that right now and I'll come back and show you the final look. All right, so there it is. I am just in love with this chrome look. I actually want to play with it a little more because there's nothing underneath it. So I really wonder what it would be like if I put like black under it or white or like a really vibrant pink. See if it would catch any of those other different colors and pull those out. So I might be playing around with that a little bit later, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Sparkling Co., really great products, obviously, so much you can do with them. As always, if you have not subscribed to the subscription bag from Sparkler Co., please do. I'll put all the information on all the different levels. There's so many choices, and no matter what you choose, you're going to be getting a great deal. Her products are phenomenal. Their customer service is amazing. So I'll put all that information down in the notes for you so you can take a look at that. They do also have a really great referral program. So if you actually put my name in the notes section at checkout, you'll be able to get an $18 credit, as will I, for referring you for your first subscription bag of the dip bags or up. So that's the $29.99 value bag and up. If you get one of the smaller bags, they don't give you the referral credit, but that's okay. If that's where you want to start, then definitely please do. Also, if you just want to maybe try a starter pack, you need all the dip liquids and things like that, please check out all of their starter kits on sparklingco.com. If you place an order from the store for anything, you can also get a $9 referral credit when you put my name in. And make sure that you do that when you check out so that you get that referral bonus. And I thank you because I'll get it too for referring you. If you have any questions, please hit me up down below. I know this was kind of a long video, but I hope it was really helpful for those of you starting out in the dip world, or if you are just looking for some different ways to kind of change it up and try new things out. So make sure that you hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure you follow me on Instagram, _Mani_Maniac. Any comments, hit me up down below. I'd love to see if there's anything you need, anything that you want to see, please let me know. I'll get together a video for you as soon as I can. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you again next time on the Mani Maniac.